to you from the Radio for One studios in Franklin, Michigan. Welcome to the Detroit Cast.
Big fan. Big fan.
A show not just free of charge, but free of FCC regulations.
Thank you for your support of the Detroit Cast.
Oh, there it is.
And without further delay, it's showtime. Please welcome the Detroit Cast. Here are your hosts, Mike and Jay.
Well, good day, everybody. Welcome to the Detroit Cast, powered by DealsOnTheD.com with Mike and Jay. Shalom, Biggie. Hi, Jay.
Hello, Mike.
Hi, Jay.
Hi, Mike.
How are you, friend?
I can't stop looking at your chest, Mike.
Ah, yes, you noticed.
Yes.
I didn't know if you'd noticed. I noticed yours as well. We look really good right now. We finally got our we finally ordered a new sweatshirt, and we in our store we update a lot of things. We got a badass new sticker.
Oh,
dope as
these
shit,
stickers.
dude. Yeah, there's two of them actually in there that are just amazing. I gotta say, I love the design of them.
There's only one of them, actually.
What do you mean?
Only one of these is for sale, Mike.
Oh, really? The other
we're
one's
holding
for
one back. We're
oh,
holding
boy.
one back. Maybe
Oh,
for our
man.
favorite listeners. We don't know.
Oh boy, this is exclusive stuff. Remember?
Exclusive
oh,
stuff.
Boy.
But hey,
Ah, boy,
what
I
we
didn't
aren't
know that.
wearing is
Yeah,
non-exclusive.
can I know I'm a fat guy, but I could probably turn to the camera.
Oh, it pops. It pops. It's beautiful. The embroidery is unbelievable. May I suggest, if you get a sweatshirt, go ahead and get the embroidery. 'Cause
Yeah,
I have a
I'm,
zip-up hoodie. I have a black zip-up hoodie. I've got the embroidery on the left breast.
on the titty, if you will.
The
Can people
TDC?
see it? Why don't you stand and turn so people can see it? Because that's a new logo, kind of too. The TDC there. Yeah, very nice.
I got the back.
Yeah, I see that. I'm not usually a fan of embroidery. Not always. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it can be obnoxious.
It can be unruly.
It can.
It can be large and kind of be square-like or rectangular.
Yeah, this is very, very comfortable. I'm really happy with this. I'm glad the way that came out.
It's awesome.
You can order them now, get them for people for Christmas.
You can. There's still
In
time.
time.
We initially said December 5th, but I talked to the guy today. He said, go ahead and do it this week, over the weekend, and he'll be able to get it to you by Christmas. So
Yeah. So
few,
just go
few
to
days left, but get it done.
just go to our website.
Under Help the Show, you'll see the merchandise tab.
Yeah, and go and check it out. There's some new stuff in there. It's very, very cool. I'm excited, man. We're talking to Ryan Ridley coming up in just a little while
I'm
here.
very excited about that.
Yeah, kind of weird. You know, we work with his dad is actually Mark Ridley, famous Mark Ridley from the Comedy Castle in Royal Oak, who we do a lot of work with. You know, when comics are coming to town that we want to talk to, and he's always been great and
Peach of a
helped us
guy.
out. Yeah, and so we got wind that his kid was doing some writing and this and that, and then we find out because you guys started watching that Rick and Morty show.
Yeah.
that Ryan's like a major player on that show. He voices some characters.
He's doing
and
well.
He's doing very well, and so
Quite well.
So Jay sends Mark an email. It's just like, hey man, we want to talk to your kid. You know, whatever. Can you make that happen? And figured we'd hear back for like, here's his publicist, here's his agent, and it was like, yeah, here's his cell phone. Call him up. And so yeah, we arranged something, and so he's going to call us in a bit. That should be fun. People that like Rick and Morty love
Rick and Morty's
Rick and
awesome.
Morty.
I know me and Isis have been on board with that a little bit. Mike's
Yeah,
a bit new
I'm
to
kind of new
It's-
to it, but it's great. It really is.
Really, I'm not a huge cartoon guy, but I do like the main characters in this one. Richard and Mortimer are pretty funny.
Adult Swim is where you'll
Cartoon
find that.
Network.
Yeah, and some of those shows stink, and some of them explode, and this is one that absolutely exploded. I did want to mention, we've got to get some reads out of the way here. Hamlin Pub supports the Detroit Cast, so let's make it a point to support them. Locations, of course, in Rochester Hills, Clarkston, Chesterfield, 2 in Shelby Township. You know there's one near you, and the one at 25 in Van Dyke in Shelby Township, we should mention, is having Mike Massey back. People have asked us like crazy, when are we going to hear from him again, see him again? And he's going to be back Friday, February 2nd. He'll be in studio with us on Thursday the 1st, yeah. And then
Second, yeah.
doing
the
live
show on the
at the pub there.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. The cool thing is we're selling tickets for this one. So for the people that got turned away last time, if you get in there fast enough and get yourself a couple tickets,
There'll be no situations.
yeah, there should be no situations.
And the
Well,
way
you
you
should get your tickets fast, though. It's not to say that you should just take your time.
Don't
and be,
rest
oh,
on
wow,
your laurels.
dude.
Oh,
We're
you
going
cannot rest
fast,
on
dude.
laurels.
Let's put it this way. We hadn't even announced it on the show yet, and 100 tickets were gone.
Yeah.
So when word got out that he was coming, it hit one of our fan pages, and they sold 100 tickets immediately. I think there's only a few hundred, so if you want to go to that show, trust me, you do. It's going to be a fun night.
DetroitCast.com, under the Interact tab, you will see events, and that's where his link to
Yes.
ticket purchases is found.
Exactly.
Also, hey, if you love me, Mike Easis, as much as Steve Gabara and the hottest sales staff in Oakland County do, take your ass over to Zott Ford and Holly and get yourself a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV this holiday season. As you know, there's no better way to support the Detroit Cast than to support our sponsors and our friends at Zott Ford, were our first. Surf their sexy deals and massive inventory at dealsinthed.com.
Yes. I read a new article this morning, Jay, when I woke up, called Weinstein's Complicity Machine. And it's a huge article that the New York Times did. And they've talked to 200 people. Honestly, I read it, the whole thing. It took me about 4 hours. And it's honestly, I was like, I don't know that there's enough new shit in here that it warrants a ton of coverage on our show. But what I get, because it's like there's so many little details that we've heard about, you know, this girl and that girl and blah, 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 and how this worked. But what's kind of amazing about it is the level of, it's kind of more of a knock on Hollywood and the way that they have been operating to protect each other. And it just shows the level of selfishness that humans have. It's like one giant me world we're living in. It's like, well, I don't want to affect my career, so blinders on.
Right.
Well, I don't want to rock the boat. Blinders on. Fuck whoever's getting hurt. These people saw everything, and the level that Harbinger went to. I mean, he was so powerful that agents wouldn't fuck with him because they had talent coming up that they wanted to use, and it's always young talent, late teens, early 20s, and so it's like, well, send him into the wolves. That's just Harvey being Harvey. And they don't care because, you know, it's like, well, if this girl makes it, I make a ton of money off her. And so there's that. And then the tabloids. He's in with the National Enquirer, the guy that owns that. I think it's American Media or something, owns the Enquirer. And he's got a standing, like, what did they call it? A friend of, the guy's name is like Pecker, David Pecker or something, fitting. And so it's like an FOP. There's a standing FOP for Harvinger Weinstein, is a friend of Pecker. Don't do that story.
I got you.
You know who else has that standing FOP?
Tom Cruise.
Trump.
Really?
Trump's got a standing order. Friend of Pecker. Don't even think about it.
FOP.
Yeah, and so anytime like there was sniffing around, and these wolves be sniffing around like, oh man, Harvey's out of control. We're doing a story, and Harvey would get wind of it. He would call his contact over at this reporter at the Enquirer, and he worked a few other places.
Run some interference for him.
And he'd be like, dude, what do we got to do? He'd just write, help me, in a text. And this guy'd be like, lunch, Beverly Hills Inn, see you there. And then they would go and they'd meet, and he's like, all right, here's the game plan. I'm going to tell this guy to fuck off, and I'm going to say, I'm going to feed your team shitloads of really juicy stories about Michael Jackson, about, you know, this person, Paris Hilton, whoever's big A-list guy. I'm going to dig up all this dirt on them. And so when they call you and your people are like, we're calling about Harvey. See, apparently he's been banging everything and raping them. Oh, yeah? Well, I got something even better for you. Michael Jackson's a pedophile. I know it. And then they'd feed him these juicy stories. And so they would just kind of go away.
For years and years and years. And just get swept aside.
He had support staff that worked with him, Jay. It was like, all right, you're new to the team. Your job is to go get penile injection shots. His dick doesn't really work very well anymore, so you need to go there and brown bag it and bring it back to Harbinger. And sometimes they would have to run him to the hotel. It's like, dude, yeah, this whore's going to be here in 20 minutes. I need you here in 10 to inject my dick with this shit that makes it hard.
God, the energy that's gone into this.
It's incredible.
You know, covering his tracks and pumping up his panoose. Like, it's just amazing, man. He must have a doubly strong boner as compared to mine, because I'd give up. I'd be like, not worth it. Yeah,
it must be just like, I don't even know what that is, but, you know, they were... You know, and it's, I don't know, the thing that just bothered me so much was just how complicit media was, how complicit agents were, how just like, Matt, fuck it, he is Hollywood, he's super powerful, he makes hit movies, his board was complicit. All of these factors came into play to cover this guy for decades. And so a lot of people believe that blowing the lid off this now is really good because, you know, if you can bring down that guy, you can bring down any of these Hollywood guys. And so I guess we'll see where it goes. If you're interested in the whole article, you know, it's called Weinstein's Complicity Machine. It's a big New York Times story today. You can check it out. Remember we were talking about Times Person of the Year yesterday?
Yeah.
Did you pick a Un? Was
I
that who?
picked Un.
Yeah. Did I pick Un as well? I think I did. What did you pick?
I mean, we both picked Trump, but we said setting aside the Trump issue, then Un.
Yeah, back up. We were reviewing their 10 finalists.
Big up.
Was it Colin Kaepernick and Un and the Saudi prince Mohammed bin Salam or whatever? There was a bunch of things, and Trump and so we picked Un. Who did you
I
pick?
went with
Jim?
Un.
You did?
Yep.
I don't think you did. Well, they have named their
What?
person of the year the Silence Breakers.
The Me Too.
Hashtag Me Too people. That seems like a cop-out to me, dude. I'm sorry. Person of the year should be a person.
Well, it's very recent too. I mean, that was my thinking. Like, okay, this didn't have the whole year to grow and become a thing.
None of that matters anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
you're seeing more and more when it comes to these like end of the year things or something like. It's just going to be what is going right now. They don't care to look back at January or.
Well, yeah, their point was this is and basically this is just a way to get press and sell magazines. I feel stupid like we're falling for it even doing the story, but why not? It's a big story. This is the fastest moving social change we've seen in decades, and it began with individual acts of courage by hundreds of women, and some men too, who came forward to tell their stories of sex harassment and assault. Trump and President Xi Jinping were runner-up in third place. I wouldn't have thought Xi Jinping would be there.
No.
Honestly, over Un, that's shocking. That's a big upset in my book. The movement began in October. I didn't realize this, that after Alyssa Milano followed on a suggestion from a friend of a friend on Facebook and tweeted, "If you've been sexually harassed or assaulted, write Me Too" as a reply to this tweet.
I do vaguely remember that, but I would not have been able to recall that without the reminder.
Yeah. I didn't remember that at all, but the hashtag was tweeted nearly 1 million times in 48 hours. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I've never sniffed 1 million retweets. It's crazy.
Well, even your Me Too got a lot of action on Twitter, I think.
Yeah, there's certain things that will get a ton of action. Trump, hashtag Me Too, guns.
Yeah.
You want to get into it, take a side on the gun debate. Whichever side you want, you will get equal play with a hashtag. So, yeah, the Me Too movement was founded by an activist like a decade ago, Tarana Burke. I didn't know that, to raise awareness about sexual violence. So the cover, what do you do with a cover? When they said we were all person of the year, remember that you were talking about?
Yep.
And they gave us the mirror so we could look at ourselves. This year they got a few people on there, including Taylor Swift, Ashley Judd. She was the first to speak out about Weinstein. Other women, Susan Fowler, a former Uber employee, Adama Iwa, lobbyist who launched the campaign, We Said Enough. Interesting, Rose McGowan is not on there.
Yeah, seriously, I thought she should be in place of Ashley Judd. I feel like Rose McGowan was really one of the first big names to.
Plus that huge, massive hashtag Rose Army. Like every time someone's talking about the hashtag Me Too movement,
Yeah, I wonder
see
why.
Rose Army. Well, it's weird too because was it SI or Vanity Fair? One of those did a big cover story about the Black Lives Matter movement and taking a knee, that whole thing, and they didn't have Colin Kaepernick on the cover. And they because they had a bunch of people, same thing. They had a bunch of people that are part of this movement, and it was like, why wouldn't Colin Kaepernick be on there? So anyway, so the story on the silence makers that they're doing in the Time magazine was sure to include all the allegations against Trump. The magazine said there was a strong case for making Trump #1 again. However, one thing is sure, love him or hate him, Trump has invaded our attention in ways previous presidents never did. He commands more than just the levers of executive power. He has the nation and the world in the grip of his singular performance, and events have bent to his will. I'd say that's true. So yeah, this was another thing. Maybe you can explain this to me, Jay. So they list all the other people that were in there, and we talked about them a minute ago. The Dreamers, Robert Mueller, Jeff Bezos. Time revealed Mueller? God damn it! Sorry. Time revealed the results of the readers' poll on Monday, which was won by Crown Prince bin Salam in overwhelming fashion.
I have no idea.
He commanded 24% of the vote versus 6% for the runner-up, hashtag Me Too.
Did he rig this somehow? Did he have a bunch of bots scrolling around
I
voting for him?
don't know.
Like the MLB All-Star voting? What'd he do? What'd he do?
Dude, honestly, if you would have said Saudi Prince, name him, I would have been like, it's got to be an Abdul in there. Probably
Yeah.
a Muhammad. Maybe a Bin. I don't know if I would have come up with that full thing, though.
Hell no. I couldn't name that guy right now.
And I've said his name a lot.
Yeah.
So have you. So what do you think the average person...
No way. He bought it.
You think so?
Yeah, he tried to buy the crown.
Yeah, maybe. Well, staying with the Me Too thought category, I saw a video, and I think we've seen this before, Jay, but it really goes to showcase like what women have been through the years, and it's one of those, where homosexuality is a disease. You don't want to be around those people. Where it's like these 1950s.
There's
movies.
a homosexual lurking about.
Yeah. He's a predator, folks. You want to avoid him. Timmy got too close to the homosexual, and you saw what happened to him. He was murdered. Like these weird... And so this came up again, and I just love these public service videos from 1959. What's wrong with women? And it's this thing like, this guy's a boss, and it's like, oh, no, they stuck me with Betsy. I don't want Betsy.
This is how to deal with Betsy.
Yeah, and it's
and
like...
her womanhood.
And so he's got to go and talk to his boss and be like, what the fuck, dude? What are you sticking me with Betsy for? But it's the music, it's the grainy.
Yeah.
You can hear the tape, and it's black and white. Do you have it there, E? I was laughing my ass off watching this earlier, but education on women. Well, there she is.
No, Betty, that's wrong. Let me show you again. You use this control to get your focus, you see? All right,
see,
this one here in the right-hand corner
Yeah, dumb woman.
to lock the suit.
Yeah, see?
There we are. Now let's try it again.
Oh, there's someone here to see you. Are you Mr. Bradshaw, the foreman?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mr.
see?
Donnelly up in personnel said for me to give you this card.
Oh, that's not going to go over
I'm
well.
your new bearings inspector.
Oh, boy. But you're a woman.
There's already one of them right here.
Look, he's like, right in her
what
face.
is it?
Yeah, I'll be with you in a
I'll
minute.
be back later to go over this with you, Betty. Just in the meantime, do the best you can.
It's like a Twilight Zone episode.
In the
Would you follow
meantime,
me,
do the best
please?
you can, dame. Yeah, see?
He's looking at the card again to make sure it's like
Here,
properly signed. Really? Could this be?
I'll be back shortly.
He can't put up with this.
Fuck. Goes to the personnel manager.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Closes the
see?
door.
Well, Mr. Bradshaw, what's on your mind?
Bearings inspector.
She's a good one, too. Just look at that record.
Okay, now, Walt, you've had your little joke. Give her to somebody else. I asked for a man.
Unreal.
We don't have a man with
Good qualifications.
Seriously, Brad.
He's rolling his
if you
eyes.
treat her right, she might make you a darn good employee.
What do you mean, treat her right?
Get that chip off your shoulder.
Yeah.
What's wrong with her?
She's a woman, isn't she?
You got a lot
This
of
isn't a
women in
joke.
your department.
Oh.
What's wrong with one more?
Did you ever hear of the straw that broke the camel's back?
They're drama.
Dromedaries,
They're
right.
good workers. Accurate. Quick to catch
They're
mistakes,
good workers.
A lot of patience.
Yeah, but that comes out of books. I work with them, mister. I know what happened.
What does happen?
It's a long story.
Oh, boy.
What does happen? Maybe I've been misinformed.
Not so long ago, you sent me a girl by the name of Myrtle Malloy.
Myrtle
I
Malloy.
remember.
As per her qualifications,
Yeah, see?
I assigned her to an inspection bench.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, boy.
In a matter of days, that bench looked more like her dressing table.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they're all like that.
Then came the day when... Joe, will you take your stuff back to table 9? That'll be your bench for the time being. Okay, Chief.
No problem, right?
Guy's complicit.
Yeah.
Myrtle, we're moving you to table number 10.
Is something wrong, Mr. Bradshaw?
No, nothing's wrong. We just need this space for something else.
Well, I sure hate to give it up. It's been a nice place to work. The light's good here, and it's nicely situated right in the middle of
All
things.
this drama.
wow.
Difficult
Well,
bitches, always being difficult.
Sorry, Myrtle, but table 10 will have to be your work area for the time being.
You mean there's liable to be another change?
Oh, no.
There's always that possibility.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Well, I certainly hope I'm not moved every other day.
oh
Bitch.
wow.
What a
Ma'am,
bitch.
no trouble at all. Tell him what you want and he does it. But with Myrtle, a little move is a big production.
Okay.
Now, wait a minute. You asked me, now let me tell you.
Yeah.
Now,
Sit down,
here's
Chief.
another problem.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, boy.
Just remembering again.
This is good memory.
Oh, Mr. Bradshaw, I wanted to tell you that the date is set for my marriage. I'll be leaving soon.
Marriage? I thought you just got
Yes, prom
engaged.
bitches want to get married
Oh,
and
I told you
leave.
about it 6 months ago. We were only waiting till we could find a place to live.
6 months ago? Oh, brother. Well, how soon are you leaving?
Well, the end of next week.
Well, that'll really put us in a bind around here. It takes time to break in a relief,
Grabbing his
girl.
cigarettes.
Yes,
See his
I
cigarette
know
pack.
it does. I wonder.
Why didn't you say something? I didn't realize you were getting married right away.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Bradshaw, but I really thought you knew. We've all been talking about
Can't you
it.
delay the wedding?
Okay,
Yeah,
Brad. But
see,
how
Mr.
many
Bradshaw's in a
blushing
bind.
brides do you have? Besides, what's all this got to do with Dolly, the new girl?
Yeah.
She's already married. And she's a qualified bearings inspector.
You know what I was doing when this new girl came in a few minutes ago?
Oh, here we go.
No.
I was trying to cope with one of the biggest problems of all, Walt. Now, in your books, it comes under the general heading of absenteeism among women employees.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I spent an hour and a half teaching one of our girls what she needed to know in order to start on the assessment today. This morning, she isn't here.
Ugh.
So I had to use somebody else. I don't think the girl we got on it now ever pick it up. So I'll probably have to find somebody else.
She's an idiot.
Question. All these things you've been talking about, marriage, absenteeism, personality problems,
Whores.
aren't they really just a part of life?
Part of a woman's life. Remember the good old days when there were all men in my department.
The good old days.
You didn't have the production output you've got now either. Look, Brad,
Look, Brad.
you've got a new bearings inspector who happens to be a woman. You need someone, and there isn't a man available. It seems to me that whether the gal adds up to trouble or not is pretty much up to you.
Ooh.
Ooh. Well, I got to think about that one.
Oh, he's not sitting well.
Yeah, boy. Over in a second. I don't remember how this ends. What are you smiling at, dame? Yeah, see?
He's thinking it over. What is Brad's trouble?
Women. Oh, isn't that hilarious?
It's unreal.
Dude, it's an SNL skit, right? It sounds like an SNL skit. Like you wouldn't think that was possible, but that's real. Like, I mean, when I see stuff like that, I just go, God, that it really is shitty, man. That it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna lump them all together. See, they're all absenteeism, and then they want to spit out kids. Yeah.
The notion that a woman can't be a fine bearings inspector.
Hold on, Betty, you're doing it wrong. You turn this knob and then this one. I've showed you this 4 times, dame. Yeah, see? Oh, it's just awesome. I love it.
Hey, dealsinthed.com has several dealerships for listeners to choose from, which is great. One that doesn't get enough attention, though, is Zott M59 Toyota in Waterford. Yes, they have the same ridiculous deals you've come to expect from our other friends at Zott, as well as a fully certified state-of-the-art body shop. So get to Zott M59 Dodge Ram in Highland, Zott M59 Chrysler Jeep in White Lake, Zott M59 Toyota in Waterford, and of course, Zott Ford and Holly and support our podcast while enjoying a world-class experience on your next new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV only from dealsinthed.com.
God, I remember the good old days when it was all men here in the office. We didn't have these kinds of troubles. By the way, what is the point of that video? What was that training video?
Well, I think it asked that final question. What is... I think that opened up the discussion.
Right, then you were going to be sitting there.
Yeah, that was going to be shown to a bunch of line supervisors, and then they were going to discuss what is the real problem here.
Okay, this was titled The Trouble with Women, and it was produced for plant supervisors in America and shows the sexual prejudice that was rather commonplace. I would agree with that. Yeah, it's how
but then they realize that you can sexually harass them, and it's like, dude, huh?
Well, that's way more fun.
Yeah.
I'll just grab their butts.
Couldn't do that with guys.
Who cares if they're disobedient, lazy, and negligent? Those female employees. At least I can grab their cans. They won't dare say anything. Yeah, see? I'm gonna have a smoke and grab her tits. Huh? What do you say, guys? See you after lunch. Enjoy. Hilarious. Oh, being a woman in the 40s. All I can say is I'm sorry, ladies.
Put that food on the table and do that laundry.
Would have kind of been nice as a white man, cisgendered white man, to be around in those days.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Ward
Like,
Cleaver. Yeah, we see Ward Cleaver come home. Everything's straight.
Where's the food on the table,
Yeah.
dame?
Well, it's like you
Yeah,
watch.
I'm starving, see?
And I know Mad Men isn't a real thing, but it's a show kind of based on that time frame. And it's like you'd see the main dude, Don Draper, come home and be pissed at his wife because he's like, look, man, I'm tired now. Just get the meal. It's like he's tired because he's been drinking all day doing.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Dude, it's
and no questions are asked.
Right,
He's the man who went to work. you
Right,
know?
right. He freaking went to work, and like I remember saying to my dad, it's like, yeah, dude, if I was freaking started drinking at noon every day, like I'd be tired too by 5, 6 o'clock.
And it's just the drinks they pour. It's like they're having a conversation. They just set down a tumbler and throw some ice cubes in it, and then it's just like straight whiskey.
It's not even a Bud Light, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like they're just drinking huge shots on the rocks. And it's funny you say that, E, because that bothered me when I was watching that show. It was like, every scene. They're pouring a drink and having drinks, and it's like, but nobody gets obnoxiously wasted. It's like, how is that possible?
Right.
There's another show I've been watching, Mind Hunter. Is it Mind Hunters?
Yeah, I think so.
On
I haven't
Netflix.
watched it, but yeah.
And one of the characters on there, and it's a show like dates back to the 70s or something, is the time period it's in. One of the characters smokes constantly. He's chain smoking the whole show, and it's just irritating. I don't know why. I'm looking at it. It's like windows are rolled up, 2 people in the car, and he's just smoking his ass, and it's just like, oh. And every fucking scene, it drives me nuts, and I don't even care about that stuff. Sorry, ladies, can we go on record and just say we're sorry for the treatment?
About a lot of stuff.
It was really not fair, not cool of our parents and grandparents.
Are you going to throw in the minorities here as well, or just the ladies?
Well, I'm starting with the ladies, you know. I mean, what with them being lazy and disobedient and stuff, you know, I figure we owe them apologies. Corey Feldman in the news again today.
Really?
Yeah. Remember he said, I think he was on Dr. Oz show, and he's like, I told the Santa Barbara police that I named the accusers.
Yeah.
And the Santa Barbara police at the time was like, nah, that's not true. He is full of shit, I believe was their quote. Until now, spokesman for the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office emailed a statement to a local Fox affiliate there where they are. Following the recent inquiries into the interview of Mr. Feldman in '93, the Sheriff's Office conducted an additional review for any stored items remained from the Michael Jackson investigation. In a container, which included the original reports from the investigation, the Sheriff's Office located some detective working copies of audio recordings made during the investigation. A copy of Mr. Feldman's interview was located. It's being turned over to the LA Police Department. Due to the fact that this case involves kids, we can't comment any further. But people believe that on there is the accusers he named. Like, he wasn't full of shit. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah, that they just sat on that and didn't follow up.
Yeah, that's really... but, you know, after reading that Harbinger article, it's like, shit, he probably paid off the police department, too. Yeah, I'll get you premiere tickets for you and your department. You know, who knows? Crazy. We got to break in a few minutes here, Jay, because Ryan should be calling us shortly. Did you see Trump busting up? Everyone's going crazy because he's announcing today.
Jerusalem.
Yeah, recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and people are fucking losing their shit. Didn't he say all along on the trail that he was going to do this?
He did. He definitely did.
So people just aren't used to politicians following through on their words. Is that what it is?
Not. Yeah, the tax plan, the Muslim ban, which, by the way, was upheld by the Supreme Court.
Of course it was. Which
Crazy,
we said
whatever
day
happened
one. We said right away.
He has discretion to do that.
Yeah, totally part of his job. I know you think this is outrageous. However, when it goes to the Supreme Court, it will get passed through in a landslide, and sure as shit, it did. 7-2, I believe.
Yeah, so Jerusalem was one of those things. Yeah, you can pull up file footage of him on the campaign trail going, we will recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the Israeli state.
Look, listen, I'm not even going to pretend to understand. You know, when you start getting into Palestine, Israel, Gaza Strip, Jerusalem, I'm just like, whatever,
My basic understanding is that several religions see Jerusalem as important. And so for us to recognize it as Israel's, then that's a big deal.
It's a dick move. Yeah. To be exact, what you just said, it's been contested for centuries. Today, 3 major world religions. Could you name those?
Muslim.
Islam, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Christians.
Christianity, sure. I'll give you that.
Christians, Muslims, and I don't know who else.
Judaism.
Oh, of course.
Would make sense, right?
Yeah. Yes.
They all
Israel.
They all lay claim to various holy sites and monuments. Crucially, Israel calls it its capital, but the Palestinians say the east of the city is their capital. Christians only are about 2% of the population in Jerusalem, but they see the city as the site of Jesus Christ's crucifixion and resurrection from the dead. That's kind of important to Christians, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the, like, as far as, like, big moments in the Bible, like those, like, holy shit, I can't wait to see what happens next.
For sure.
It's the moment.
I mean, what do you got? The ark, you got this, you got that. But,
it all comes down to that.
That one is...
If Jesus rose from the dead.
Yes.
Bam.
That site they're going to want, like, that's home plate, right?
Yes.
That's home plate. So you need that spot. Israel considers Jerusalem, all of it, to be their eternal capital. Palestinians want their own sovereign nation with East Jerusalem as its capital. and have made that a condition of pursuing a two-state solution.
And, of course, the left is losing their shit. How could he do this? This is going to create all this conflict and so forth.
Yeah.
Which may be true in the short run. I mean, you probably are seeing riots today and so forth by Palestinians. But I think the thinking behind it is maybe that if you give Israel this, then during the negotiation you go, hey, Israel, relax on X, Y, and Z. We gave you Jerusalem as the capital, all right,
Do you
man?
think that's
so you
possible?
have to bend. I think there's some logic there.
I mean, he set out originally this massive plan to deal with this. I'm going to have a great plan, and we're going to bring peace to the Middle East.
Kushner in charge of it.
Yeah, bring peace to the Middle East. This bit me a little sideways. I got to be honest with you, man. The Pope came out and made a statement. He couldn't sit still. Frank did, yeah. He made a plea for Trump to rethink urgently and spoke out in Rome this morning. I make a heartfelt appeal so that all commit themselves to respecting the status quo of the city in conformity with the pertinent resolutions of the United Nations. I cannot keep quiet about my deep concern about the situation that has been created in the last few days.
Because he knows there's going to be conflict.
Yeah, but you know what, dude? That's like
Jesus. Status quo hasn't been working, so...
you know what? I heard this guy talk today.
I mean, this guy is such a total pussy. It's stunning.
Remind me of his name.
General, fuck.
He's always on Fox News. He's hilarious. That was his response, Like, look, status quo hasn't worked. Let's make a move here.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just go on with the status quo and have some balls. And this guy is always just, go for it. I know there might be conflict, but go for it.
You got to do it. And when I read that, though, I was like, that is very, like, the position of the Pope, much like you're speaking for Jesus himself. And what would Jesus do? Jesus wouldn't take the fucking easy road, like, just keep tempers at a minimum. No, sometimes you have to be above that and make the hard decision no matter what the fallout.
You have to break a few eggs.
You do. And so I was actually disturbed by that sentence. I was like, yeah, I get why you want to just keep it boiling under the surface, but it's ready to blow at any moment.
Well,
that's no reason not to get involved.
The Pope gets involved in some political issues that sometimes you just shake your head. You know, the wall thing, too. It's like, shut up, Pope.
Yeah.
You know, why do you have a say over the U.S. foreign policy as to immigration?
Yeah. Who the hell are you?
Go drive your Pope-mobile, Pope.
Yeah. And people love pointing out, well, you got some nice fancy security walls all around your little Vatican area. Yeah, I know. It's disturbing when he gets involved with that shit. But
the Pope's, of course. I mean, what more would we expect from the Pope, really? He always has this idealistic, like, everybody get along.
Yeah.
It's a big world.
Yeah.
Kind of viewpoint,
all hold hands.
Right? Yeah, let's all hold hands and kumbaya. And it's like, Pope, look. This is a tough world we live in.
Yeah, the reality is it's ugly. You were a bouncer. You should remember that and know that. Just stick to washing horse feet and sell your religion and just be a good dude. Be a good dude and get your neck out of some of the politics.
Yes.
Please. All right, we got to take a break, Jay, and then Ryan Ridley coming up next.
The Detroit Cast continues after this short break.
Hi everyone, this is Kelly Menino, your event coordinator for the Hamlin Pubs. Did you know that Hamlin Pubs offer 2 private rooms at each location, both located in Shelby Township? We specialize in all kinds of events, from bridal and baby showers, dinner rehearsals, to corporate luncheons and wedding receptions. My team is committed to making your occasion your most memorable event. Give me a call today so that we can plan your next event. Call me at 586-596-1425 or visit our website at hamlinpubs.com.
The Detroit Cast continues now, bitches. Here's Mike and Jay.
All right, welcome back to the Detroit Cast, powered by DealsOnTheD.com with Mike and Jay. And we might have to pop in and do some extra content today because I can tell already we're going to have some leftover stuff. But we've patiently waited, and I think it's time to talk to Ryan Ridley. Most people would know his credits from, he was a writer on Community.
Yes.
With Joel McHale and Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase was on it. That's
right.
Yeah.
I hear he's such an asshole, too.
I know.
I might have to ask him about that.
Donald Glover, the guy who's playing Lando in the new Han Solo movie, was on that. Yeah.
Yep. But mostly as a bigly writer and voice guy on Rick and Morty, the big Adult Swim show. So if you're ready, Jay, I believe he's calling in now.
Yep. Ryan.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey,
buddy.
Very well. This is Jay and Mike.
Hi, Jay. I'm Mike.
Hey, buddy. How are you, Ryan? It's good to talk to you. Thanks for calling in. Of course, this is Ryan Ridley, writer, producer, voice actor for Rick and Morty and Ghosted and Community. More importantly, the son of Mark Ridley, our dear friend Mark Ridley, owner of Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak. How was Mark as a dad for you growing up?
How was he? He charged me a cover and a 2-drink minimum every time I came home. So, he's kind of always had that business sensibility that it takes to run a comedy club.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with us at all, Ryan, but I've known your dad for 17, 18 years now, and such a legendary club, great guy. We've actually had him in studio here. He did a great interview with us.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
No, he's great. I think one of the things I'm learning about my dad and me is that I take after my mom when it comes to a lot of my personality, because I remember my dad growing up, I'd always be, out and about with him, running errands or at restaurants, and he would know everybody by name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I just thought as a kid, I'm like, well, I guess you're just friends with everybody when you're an adult. You're friends with the person at the bank and the lady at the grocery store.
No,
and
your dad is just
older,
an extraordinarily nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do not take after him at all. I think once I get to know you, I'm very friendly. But boy, it's the most terrifying thing in the world to ask the name of someone that I've seen, even if I see them, every day getting a cup of coffee. God forbid I ask their name.
Dude, I'm the same way. It kills me. It's like, I know I've met this guy 1,000 times. God, this is awful. I should know his name. Well, it's funny too, because your dad, like, when you talk to comics, I don't care who they are, they all have horror stories about clubs across from coast to coast. Horror stories. And then you ask them about Mark Ridley or Ridley's Comedy Castle, and they can't say enough good things about it. They absolutely love him and love that club.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, because I hear that too, and I always go, boy, I hope people aren't just telling me that because,
no,
he's my dad.
No, not at all.
So it's cool. It's cool that he one of the few good ones in apparently an industry full of sleazeballs.
Yeah, right.
That's true. Hey, how much time did you spend around the club growing up? I mean, every comedian who's anybody has gone through that club. Any favorites that you got to see? Any stories?
Yeah, I mean, I've told this story so many times because it was the most impactful. I mean, I growing up, I definitely saw a lot. I was there a lot, and at a certain age, I probably didn't know who anybody was. And also, at the same time, a lot of the people I saw at that point weren't famous. So who knows exactly who I saw, but I definitely, Tim Allen was around growing up, and my dad tells me I saw Empire Strikes Back with Bob Saget. I don't remember that. And then, but the biggest one was I got to see Jim Carrey for my 16th birthday with a group of my friends, and that was at the sweet spot where it was just after In Living Color, so obviously I knew him from that, but it was just before Ace Ventura came out. So he was such a huge influence on my comedic sensibility because he was so absurd, and just his energy he had was so not like a typical comedian, and he was hilarious. And backstage, he was hilarious. Even like he was Jim Carrey both on and off stage. So that was pretty special.
Now you've done stand up yourself at Ridley's, is that right?
Yeah, I had a really traumatic experience. I started doing stand up. You're gonna get me to cry, you guys. I did stand up early on just because it's funny to think like pre-internet being as easily accessible and being able to kind of disseminate whatever you want nowadays. Like before that, like there was just it wasn't easy to get stuff out there, if you didn't have a platform. So I was like, well, geez, I know I can write jokes and then I can get on a stage and say them. And that's sort of like the only way to mainline something to an audience and get feedback. So I was doing stand-up around town, and I sort of kind of slowly built up like, I was doing these little, these little bar back rooms, and I kind of, start doing well. I go, well, I'm not going to do my dad's club until I get real good. And one day, a headliner came in and saw me at this show where I was sort of the big fish in the small pond, and he was like, "Oh, you got to come middle for me." So he came and it was my first paid gig at my dad's club. I opened for this guy, and boy, it was I just bombed in every show.
Dude, I can't tell you. Probably some of the most uncomfortable moments in my life are being in your dad's club and watching someone absolutely shit the bed on stage. And I don't know why some people like watching people die like that, but I want to just slink under the table. I'm so embarrassed
Have
for him.
empathy for him.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, I can't stand it. I would much rather be in the hands of someone who either handles bombing with grace or just 100% kills it. Like, I don't want to see suffering.
Yeah.
And humiliation and shame.
Yeah, it's so tough. Whenever I see a comic, and the hardest part for them is to transition between jokes. Like, I think that's what takes a bad comic to a decent comic, is when you can do that, because they've got it in their head that they're about to get a big laugh, and then when that doesn't come, they don't really have a transition into their next topic, and so it's that really uncomfortable, like,
anyway.
So, it's like, oh, dude.
Yeah. It's like in a movie when you could tell that they built in a laugh break in the edit.
Yeah. Right. I find it interesting too, Ryan, for your career. You want to get into comedy, you want to get into writing, and your dad owns this humongous club here in town, and yet you were like, I got to get out of here, and so you went to Chicago, and that's kind of where you started to make your own name.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, not much of a name in Chicago, but that was sort of. I was doing stand-up at Detroit for a while, and I just knew I had to kind of get to that next stage, so to speak. So, yeah, I moved to Chicago, and I really fell in love with the comedy scene there. Like, there was one night I went to a show at the Second City, and it was one of those very, very alt comedy, weird experimental scenes, but that just spoke to me, and I was like, oh, I got to become a part of this. And so, yeah, moved there and started doing stand-up there, which is interesting.
Is that hard to get into? Because it seems like there are always these packs of people that come out of Second City, whether it's Toronto or especially Chicago, where it's like, I was in a class with, Chris Farley and this guy, and all of them. Is that hard to get into or easy to get into? I mean, it seems like so much talent comes out of there.
You mean just breaking into a scene in Chicago?
Yeah.
Well, it was hard because I didn't know anybody, literally. Like, I just moved there and said, okay, well, let me look up where all the comedy rooms are, and obviously, more importantly, the open mics, because no one's going to book me at that point. And I just, was confident enough in myself that I was decent enough at a certain level that if I, did it enough, I'd get hopefully people's attention. And that's all. Whenever anyone asks me for advice, that's like, the only advice I can give is like, just get in the mix with like a scene of people that you respect creatively and connect with them. And so just coming around to shows enough, eventually you finally have like a good set, and then a couple people come up to you afterwards and tell you good job. And then you start having a conversation, and then you connect with them, and then they're your friends. And then now you've got a couple friends, and that starts growing, and you're getting better, and then they go, oh, you should do this show, and suddenly you've got both a friendship circle and a sort of a little little
posse.
network going.
Yeah. It's like as long as one of us makes it, you can pull the rest of us along with you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously you got to be talented. That's the truth. I was just explaining this the other day. I was talking to somebody. I was like, unfortunately, whenever I've been in like a comedy scene or something, whether it's stand up or, you know, making videos, which led me to TV writing, and even in TV writing rooms, it's like people always end up being gravitating to the people who they respect creatively. And then if they like them as people, that's sort of like secondary. It's never like, oh, you seem like a really good person, and you volunteer on the weekends? Wow. But you're not great at comedy. You're not talented.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't work that way.
Hey, talk about the transition then to Channel 101 and the importance of that to you and your peers' development.
Channel 101 is created by Dan Harmon, who created Rick and Morty and Community, and Rob Schraub, who directs a lot of TV comedy. And they were frustrated because they'd been writing a lot of stuff that never actually got made, and so they created this community that was like, oh, we'll just make our own stuff for people. And it was right early on. It was weird because, as I described earlier, it's hard to get your stuff out there pre-internet, becoming a huge distribution hub for anybody. And so they have a website, and they put up these videos, but before that they would screen them, and the process was, it was emulating television. So the audience was essentially the network executives. You would make shows, meaning like pilots, like 5-minute little mini short pilots that had to have some sort of hook, like, oh, this is a cop show, so every week I could see a new adventure with these cops or whatever. And then the panel would put them in, so there'd be some quality control, and there'd be 10 shorts, and the audience would vote on their top 5, and those 5 would get to come back to make second episodes. So there could be shows that ran 5 to 10 to 20 episodes, and then there's others that screen 1, and that's it. They don't come back, and that's considered a failed pilot. So anyway, all that being said, it was a great process to just submit stuff and get rejected first, obviously, and then get stuff in, which means you were getting better, but get rejected by the audience and not get voted back. And then eventually they vote you back, and you're like, okay, I'm finally starting to crack it.
Yeah.
And then maybe you get canceled after the second episode, and then eventually you figure out how to make a show that goes for, you know, X amount up until basically you want to end it, which I finally got to that point. And it was just a great place to, like, hone my skills as far as crafting stories and everything else.
And so did Rick and Morty come out of that? I mean, was there like a loosely based pilot that Dan and Justin did that came out of that Channel 101?
Just Justin. He had done something called The House of Cosby's, which is hilarious and sort of got him a lot of attention early on, but also including Bill Cosby, who, boy, looking back, I mean, the fact that guy was on his high road.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Set the cease and desist, so he stopped making it, and then he made something called The Real Adventures of Doc and Marty, which was blatantly and egregiously meant to be a Back to the Future ripoff. Sure. I mean, they weren't pretending to be anything else, except it was like in that. Am I allowed to speak crudely on this?
Oh, God, yes.
Feel free.
Say anything you want.
So in that it was obviously straight up Doc and Marty for Back to the Future, except Doc made Marty lick his balls repeatedly, and I believe it was that was how they traveled through time.
There's always a twist.
Yeah,
it was Justin going, Marty, you gotta lick my balls, Marty. You gotta lick my. Oh boy, Rick, Doc, do I have to? And then he'd drop his pants, and it'd be this gross, like, close-up of testicles, and then his little boy. Anyway, so that all was designed to, in Justin's mind, get more negative attention, this time from Robert Zemeckis or Universal, because he was like, well, fuck it. I got my show shut off. He was making giving a tribute to Bill Cosby. He wasn't making fun of us. So he's like, I'm going to go all in. And it actually never got voted back. Apparently the audience didn't, it was ahead of its time.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's so funny, man.
Yeah.
So then how did you get involved? I mean, we're kind of jumping around here, but how did you get involved with Rick and Morty? I'll be honest with you, Ryan. I'm kind of new to it. I'm almost through season 1. It's a great show. It really is.
So
but
good. I
think we see your name first pop up in season 1, episode 3, I believe. And I don't know if you're credited as a co-producer or something. So how did you get involved? At that stage?
Well, technically, I was episode 2.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. So I was the first writer they hired, and when the pilot I'm a voice in the pilot, so my only involvement in the pilot. I'm the bully who gets frozen in school.
Oh, yeah, Frank.
Tip over and break
Shatter.
In several chunks. And so that was my only involvement in the pilot. I've been working with those guys for so many years and so many different things. Justin and I did a podcast for years. Dan and I did a web series, and I'd worked on a TV show with both of them. And so, I'd proven myself to them. We all clearly shared a creative sensibility. And so I guess I was either just always around and up in their shit, or they really valued me, or a combination of both. But they brought me on as the first writer, and that was when the show just got 2 scripts ordered. That's it. They wasn't picked up the series officially. So we sat in a room. We wrote the first 2 episodes, which were Lawnmower Dog, which is my first credited episode. I think that was the second one that aired, and then the episode that aired kind of halfway through the season called Love or Rick Potion number 9, where Morty and Rick fuck up the world so badly and Cronenberg everyone that they have to go to another reality at the end.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Well, I'm always fascinated by this, and I've asked other people this same question, but when we see your credits pop up each week, and it's like, oh, this week it's written by Ryan Ridley, and next week maybe you're a producer, and then the next week maybe you're a co-producer, and I'm always wondering what that means. What is the difference obviously I know the difference between a writer and a producer, but why do those things change, and what does that all mean?
It's a good question, because it was always confusing for me. In fact, I've become so savvy now reading credits and being like, oh, I know exactly what that person does.
Yeah.
So the long and the short of it is, is that the right expression, the long and the short of it?
I believe it is, yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll give you credit for that one.
So most of those producer titles are simply just writers, and the arbitrary random wording like supervising producer, co-producer, co-executive producer simply has to do with the pay grade / hierarchy, where they fall in the hierarchy. So, for example, like a staff writer, once you get producer by your name, that's where you start getting higher level. But it's staff writer, then you're a story editor, then you're an executive story editor, then producer, then co-producer, then supervising producer, then co-executive producer, and finally executive producer. And it just means how you get paid and how, if you're in charge of anyone else below you, basically.
So you want to be an executive producer, if at all possible?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. You always want more money and more power.
Sure.
That's human nature.
I would agree with that.
That's the top of the food chain. But those titles, they don't change weekly for any individual. They're seasonally. So you do a whole season as one kind of writer-producer, and then you get promoted to the next title and so on.
So how does the writing process work on Rick and Morty? Do you work on individual ideas and then bring it to a group on a selected date, and everybody collaborates and molds it into a final product? Or how?
I'd say Rick and Morty works basically the same as any other TV show, animated or live action, as far as I know, where at least any scripted show, because there are animated shows that are, quote, board driven, which basically means ideas are generated, which I guess this is the same. They're same at this level. Most TV shows, all the writers sit in a room together and pitch ideas, and it's anything from ideas that they had worked on at home individually and wrote down in a notebook, and then came in and just said something as simple as like, oh, Rick turns into a tomato. I hate it. But what if he turned into a pickle?
Yeah.
To something more fully fleshed out, and then you basically just sit in a room, and obviously the head writer / executive producer, if you're the writer, is driving the leading everything. So the arbiter of what works and what doesn't work, and then the things that they gravitate towards and think that has potential. Then we start to focus in on those ideas and start building out those ideas. And then as those ideas get bigger and bigger, then eventually they're assigned to a single writer, sometimes arbitrarily, sometimes because they pitch the idea, sometimes because they're just like, hey, I really love this idea. I know I can nail it. And then that person goes off and writes the outline. And then after that, they wrote the first draft. And after that, second or third draft, depending. And then eventually the executive producer, head writer, somebody does a pass on it to kind of make it uniform with the whole show as far as the sensibility.
And then when is the interplay then with art directors? I mean, do you give them ideas the whole time during this process, and they're exchanging things with you? Are the writers sketching characters out in terms of what they're thinking in their minds?
Justin always would do that. He'd get on the whiteboard and start writing, if he had an idea in his head. I mean, the worst thing was what we found out was the most frustrating thing in the world is to, like, when Justin has an idea in his head for a character and he goes like, I really want to see this kind of thing. And it draws a big creature, usually that has like testicle jowls or something like that. And now we're kind of locked into like making a story around something that looks a specific way, which is always like, this might be a terrible example, but like, hey, you're trying to figure out how to make the engine go fast and fuel efficient. Well, like, just make sure that it also can power the headlights shaped like stars. And you're like, what? Let me get to that way down the line.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes it helps, it drives, and you're inspired and stuff like that. But the interplay between artists was, I don't know, like maybe it could have been a little more integrated and stuff. But usually it was after the episode is written, you go and you take it to the art director, and they start breaking it down and assigning things to character designers or prop designers or background or whatever, and they would start depicting the world. And boy, sometimes it would be so off what you expect it to be, and that that could be a great thing. You'd be like, oh, I didn't even picture this alien to look like this, but this is cool. Or sometimes you'd be like, no,
Yeah.
got to look like this. He's got to have a big head and a little body.
Yeah, the art is so important in this show. It's a cartoon unlike, say, The Simpsons that's just set in Springfield or wherever the hell that is. I mean, you guys are jumping dimensions and all this stuff, so yeah, I would think they come back with some stuff where you're just like, wow, that's not at all what I was thinking when I was thinking of this world with, aliens with huge testicle heads.
Yeah, I mean, one time, the best story I could think of, well, there's two good stories. One I think I've told a lot, but the one I haven't told as much is I wrote this. I didn't even write the episode. I wasn't titled as credited as the writer, but I'd written like a big chunk of it. And there's a scene where they go to a world, and I described them as tree people. And, what I meant was simply they were like humanoid creatures, although aliens, that lived in the woods and sort of lived a more arboreal lifestyle. And the designs were they were literally like trees, like from Wizard of Oz,
They're
like the trees
Treebeard from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. And I'm just like, no, it's not. This is ruining the joke. They've got to be like humanoid. And it really, I don't know if I came off like a dick, but it's like, you got to fight for what's right, because these things matter, and the way that an entire product comes together, like it's got to work on every level, or else like something's just it's gonna fall apart if you just get way too off what is intended to be.
Mm-hmm. I understand that this is really your dream job, sci-fi and comedy. It's the perfect mix for you. And I don't know how really to ask this question, but whenever I think of sci-fi, I know how fans can get really, really super into that stuff. They get really big cult followings, and your show's no different. I wonder how important it is for you guys for the stuff to make sense technically. When you're talking about different worlds, I mean, I imagine nerds are going to come out and go, that wouldn't work because the third dimension would fall apart due to X. So do you guys even think about that, or is it just like, fuck it, whatever, we just write what we want and go there?
The latter. The fuck it school of writing. Yeah, I mean, I always heard Futurama were a staff of math
nerds.
Yeah, geniuses.
Nerds and people with engineering degrees and physics backgrounds, and they really worked to get all that stuff right. And I'm like, who has the time for that? I mean, because the truth is, in most of the movies I've loved as a kid, I mean, all that sci-fi it doesn't really hold up. It's just like, does it hold up from a story logic point of view? Meaning, like, we all know when we're watching a movie and someone explains something and we're like, what? That's stupid. Versus like, yeah, I don't know, that seems right. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, every time travel movie, like, because time travel isn't real and no one knows if it's possible. All time travel is made up logic, but just some time travel movies seem to feel right, and others just go like, what? I'm too distracted by all the paradoxes and traits.
Yeah.
And so as long as the story stuff feels right. I mean, I've gotten really frustrated at jobs where people point out logic issues, and I go, trust me when I tell you this, and this is not me not being like, hey, nobody cares, but nobody's going to care about that little bit of logic if they're entrusted by a story that's internal story logic, which is very different from real world logic. You can't build an airplane on story logic and hope it flies.
Yeah.
You know, people aren't going to care but if the story's not working because we're spending too much time focused on the detail, then all they're going to care about is, wait, what? That's dumb. That doesn't make sense because they're not caught up in the story.
Hey, Ryan, I saw you commenting, I think recently you guys were at a Comic-Con. I know you probably have done several of those. Number one, I'm interested in your take on Comic-Cons in general, but the substance of this discussion had to do with female writers being included in season 3, and I wondered, how did that change the creative dynamic?
It didn't. I mean, you know, it as far as, you know, I always say, like, I don't, like, the idea that women or men would change any dynamic in any room, I think is less of a factor than just the actual, what any of us hope to actually see, which is just the talent or the skill of the individual writer.
Sure.
So, you know, we've had lots of writers, and most of them are men because that's what most of the show's been, that have, you know, not really worked out for one reason or another. And it's not because they're untalented at all. Sometimes it's like anything from a personality difference to just like a sensibility difference. And so when we brought on, you know, female writers, it was like, well, this is truly an effort to just try to address these classic issues. Like, you know, white men tend to hire white men because they know mostly white men, you know?
Right.
And so we made an effort to kind of like mix it up. And like with the male writers we hired, we found out like, oh, some were better than others, fit in better than others, contributed certain things that were missing than, you know, that we didn't realize. But I don't know. Maybe I'm naive to say it had less to do with gender than it did just the individual talent for the people.
So it had nothing to do with the absence of a penis or presence of a penis.
Right.
It's interesting.
You know, I mean, there was a couple times when, you know, all of a sudden you go, oh, this room bit maybe isn't really connecting with the ladies, or maybe it's a little too, we're assuming, we're forgetting that women don't think like this. I'm just talking about just like when we're just joking around in the room about something gross, you know, it's like, oh, yes, this suddenly feels weird to be talking about this.
See, but I would worry about that a little bit. Like, you want that room that goes crazy off the walls. You know, a comedy writer's room can be nasty. And if you're thinking about that, like, oh, shit, Linda's sitting over there. I hope I didn't just bum her out. You know, I don't know. That'd be tough to go there.
I didn't hear him say that, though. I just heard him say that some people didn't connect. Like, for example, the women just didn't get the ball sweat joke or something like that. I mean, you're not saying...
not even that. Not even that. I just remember Justin said there was a story where I don't know what we were talking about. Something to do with, like, this girl said, like, and then, like, the guy would, like, come on her face, and then Justin was like, yeah, that'd be gross. Like, clearly, like, the subtext being like, okay,
who would want to do that?
You know,
oh, man.
All guys, they call it the money shot for a reason.
Boy, this whole room is offended by that.
But it wasn't even offended. It was just sort of like, oh, like, yeah, she doesn't see pornography the same way that men see it, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think, you know, it was ever an issue of anyone having to be concerned. I mean, you know, I also think that, look, there's a difference between aggressively macho, or what you'd call like toxic masculine, like joking around that does veer into like offensive. That's like, look, even I would be offended by it, because I've been in rooms where I'm just like, look, guys, I love the grossest joke. I believe me, but it's like there's also I've been around dudes where I'm like, oh, this is like sexist and misogynistic. I'm not into the angle of this joke because, frankly, it's just dumb, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think we ever had to mitigate that. And you know, there was a famous lawsuit in the 90s with, like, a Friends, I think, writer's assistant that maybe sued because of that issue, and that basically a judge was like, look, the writers' rooms, they have to be able to go to wherever they want on their creative journey to an idea. And, you know, it's like, yeah, you can't really censor yourself. Now, there's obviously a difference between straight up using that as a cover for sexual harassment and real creative indulgences in the wherever gross places your minds would go as you're joking around.
I just think it's a really risky move. I mean, kudos to you guys for doing it, but when you've got something that's working, you know, the adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? And so if you've got something that's going, you've got a couple seasons under your belt, it's really got a strong following. I mean, there's always the risk that you bring in 4 female writers and all of a sudden the field changes and fans notice it, and then what do you do?
Well, I mean, I had to say this a lot online and stuff and addressing it, but like honestly, the only thing that's ever going to move the needle as far as the show is going to be Dan, Justin, and I'd like to think to a lesser extent me and another writer, Dan Guterman, another writer named Mike McMahon. We were always sort of the core team, and I don't want to leave out any other writers. There's, you know, Tom Kaufman was a writer that was on the show from the beginning, but when I name those names, those are the people who were there from the beginning and were the sort of the loudest voices in the room. And truth is, those people are going to make up the largest 80% of the pie chart of the creative influences of the show. And so when you're bringing in other writers, and I don't care if they're male or female, because it really, I'm telling you, there were male writers who were detrimental to the show in many ways. And it's got nothing to do with gender. It's just like, oh, you take a chance on a new person, and suddenly it's like, oh, they're not working out. They don't get the show, or they're like arguing too much, or they're on their phone. And so, yeah, the needle was only ever going to move based on Met Think Tank's sensibility. So if the people criticized the third season, and I do think it was truly misogyny because they just look at the names on the screen of who wrote the episode. That one sucked because it was a girl who wrote it. They don't understand how TV works. Those were episodes that were ultimately decided by all of us, and they were wrong also because Pickle Rick had the name of a female writer, and that just got nominated for an award. I mean, it was exposing a lot of ignorance about how TV writing works, and people start saying like the women are ruining the show. It's like, dude, you have no idea that, you know.
So are you guys working on season 4 right now? And if not, when does that start?
No, I'm actually no one's, as far as I know, no one's working on the show, and I'm certainly not. So I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, boy.
And, they really take their time. I never understood why everybody, all parties, Dan, Justin, and Adult Swim didn't get their shit together and make the show fast. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sure they all have their reasons. But
are you saying there's a possibility there won't be a season 4, or do you think there will be?
I don't think there's. I highly doubt there won't be. I'm shocked that it's taken. We got done writing season 3 in November of last year, and here we are 11 months later.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then I know how long the show takes to write, let alone animate. So it's just like I'd be surprised if there was a 4th season on the air any sooner than 2019, than late 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just. Get your shit together, you guys. Get it all together. Put it in a backpack, to quote Rick. Or Morty, sorry. That was Morty's line.
Well, not to stay too much on the writer's room and stuff like that, but I'm fascinated by it. And you know, we've got a show here, a talk show, and it's kind of wide open. We talk about all types of stuff, and we try to make each other laugh as much as we can. It kind of reminds me of a writer's room. And nothing humiliates me more than when I say something, and I swear to God I thought of it on the spot, and then Eric goes, "Man, Seinfeld did that." Oh, yep, that was like a Simpsons episode. And I'm like, fuck, I swear to God, I wasn't thinking about Seinfeld or The Simpsons.
Mike is all day either coming up with stuff from Seinfeld, Simpsons, or he's using wordplay. That's
my thing. So I imagine, like, if I had a great writer's idea and I come running into the writer's room, and I mean...
Yeah, there's only so many chords on the guitar, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, how hard is it to really, truly come up with something creative that everybody goes, holy shit, yeah, that's...
And have you ever heard, Simpsons did it?
Oh, of course. I mean, The Simpsons, and I mean, not as much Seinfeld just because we're in such a different world, but, you know, South Park made a whole episode called Simpsons Did It because they were experiencing that in their writer's room. So, and Simpsons has been on for 20 years and also not just been on like in the background, it's been on, it was such a fundamental part of all of anyone who's a writer, I think, grew up watching The Simpsons, comedy writer anyway, and had such a huge impact. So all those ideas and rhythms and sensibility are going to be just in your brain. But yeah, now then you also combine South Park, and then there's just so much
Futurama
TV
and Family Guy.
Yeah, and so yeah, that would happen. I mean, you know, you try to push the idea until it feels like it's far enough away from the original, from whatever someone called out. I mean, you know, we got really bummed out in the first season because we did like a dream episode. I referenced it earlier, Lawnmower Dog, where there's sort of an Inception parody, and they go into like someone's brain, and they run into Scary Terry, who's a Freddy Krueger knockoff, and he's like got a family, like a wife and a kid, and it's like, oh, isn't that ironic? But then it was already being animated when one of the writers said, oh, you know, there's that South Park episode where they do an Inception parody and they run into Freddy Krueger, and Freddy Krueger also ironically has a family. And we're like, why didn't you say anything?
Yeah. Oh, that's
we're going to look
funny.
like such hacks.
That's crazy.
And
That's
so,
a
you
crazy
know,
coincidence.
yeah, so it's hard. You have to just like basically keep mutating the idea until it's a different enough species that people go like, oh, I didn't even think of that. But, you know, we did that with, there's an episode where the guys go into like a microverse and then a miniverse, you know, they keep going to these concentric smaller and smaller worlds. And when that idea started, it was like, this is way too similar to the episode of Simpsons, The Treehouse of Horrors, where Lisa's tooth grows like a bacterial colony that evolves into like an entire species that in a civilization, and then they develop into like, you know, a phase where they have spaceships that are flying around chasing Bart. And like originally that episode was just too similar to that. We're like, this just feels like that episode.
Yeah.
And so we had to change it.
Hey, one other thing about The Simpsons, Ryan. Al Jean grew up in the area, similar area to you. We actually, Mike and I worked at Jean's Hardware for a couple of years. But I wonder if you have any personal connection to Al, and you know, whether he was any sort of mentor or connection to you with respect to these shows.
Well, geez, I didn't know he grew up in Metro Detroit.
Oh, yeah, Farmington Hills.
Where'd he go to school?
Harrison.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, where is that? What area
Farmington
is that?
Hills. Farmington Hills.
Okay, yeah, I know, cool. I mean, I've never met him personally, but obviously, you know, The Simpsons we collaborated with them on a Simpsons couch gag, you know, a couple of years ago. Rick and Morty came in and killed The Simpsons in the opening credits of Simpsons.
I remember that.
And then they just did a shout out to the Szechuan sauce, like a reference to that in an episode. And so there's obviously, and like, you know, animation is a really small world compared to the, you know, live action or just entertainment in general. So everybody not only just knows each other, but like we had people work in The Simpsons that work, you know, that go back and forth between Rick and Morty and The Simpsons. And our line producer was the line producer of The Simpsons. And so there's always some kind of connection, but I've never met Al personally. I've just heard, you know, I know a lot of people who know him, and, you know, it's interesting. Maybe one of these days I'll meet him at a party or something.
Hey, you know, that reminds me, do you have any thoughts or opinion on kind of the shit that Apu is going through these days? You know, I don't know if you saw that, but there's a documentary made about Apu that Indian actors are all pissed off that, you know,
he's so stereotypical.
Yeah, so stereotypical. You know, thank you, come again. You know, like, and so every Indian kid growing up had to deal with, you know, Apu comments or Quickie Mart references, and kind of hindered them. I don't know if you have any opinion on that, but
yeah, I mean, I was just talking to a friend of mine who's Indian the other day, and I actually asked her about that. She wasn't aware of that, but, you know, she mentioned the Master of None episode. I don't know if you've seen that, which dealt with the Indian accent stereotype in movies and TV, and they touched upon Apu and Fisher Stevens and Short Circuit and all these caricatures. And it's so funny because, I mean, growing up, it's just like this is everything we're going through in this day. Like, the truth is, as a white guy, like, I was just like, oh, what's wrong with that? You just don't even think about it, you know? And it took me until my ex-girlfriend is Japanese, and she was like the only Asian person in her school in Boston, and she got picked on a lot and bullied just for being Asian. And we talking about Big Trouble in Little China. I'm like, I love that movie. She's like, that movie's super offensive and racist. I'm like, what? I don't what are you talking about? And then she explained, I'm like, oh, yeah, well, I'm not Asian, so I'm not looking at these absurd Asian stereotypes. It's offensive. So, yeah, like, you know, my Indian friend, you know, was like, yeah, it's really annoying to continue to see these Indian actors like that are American, you know, that are born in America doing like that accent in every single role. And I have a friend, my friend, Kumail, who actually, he's from Pakistan. He does have that accent, not that accent, but, he has an accent.
Yeah.
And I remember she told me, she said, because he's in Silicon Valley.
He plays Dinesh.
Yeah, and she goes, the only thing that bothers me about that character is that the accent. I go, well, that's actually his accent. But, even he said at one point, Kumail was like, it's just all these roles of like, oh, you do the accent, you like really juice it up, come on. and African American actors have to deal with that, And, I'm sure gay actors have to deal with that, and it's like and look, as a writer, you go like, well, it's all about the broad strokes, and you kind of want it's all archetypes, and there's a quick jump between archetype and stereotype, and also we should be challenging these things, and there's so many ways that a character can be depicted, but they're always depicted as the same thing, and that's the problem.
It's a tough topic because if you're trying to be funny, you know how to be funny, and it's bruising other people to do that in a lot of cases. And so, and if you really dive into The Simpsons, Jay and I have talked about it on our show. I mean, you could go down the list of characters on The Simpsons, and they're basically stereotypes of whatever, of a clergyman, of a cop, of a black guy, of a Mexican. I mean, they're all those broad strokes that you're talking about. So it's an interesting discussion, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that is the other end of it. Is like, wait, everybody kind of is a target, But it's up to the people that are, Once again, my girlfriend always said, she was like, listen to the minority when they're complaining. You know what I mean? Because we tend to go like, I think the majority knows what we're talking about. Of course, for the majority.
Yeah, stop whining over there. You guys got some amazing voice actors, or just actors in general. Really early on. I mean, you got Chris Parnell, obviously.
Parnell is awesome.
He's amazing. But I'm like, wait a minute. That's John Oliver. Oh, that's Dana Carvey. That's Stephen Colbert. That's Nathan. I can't remember his last name, from Nathan For You.
Fielder.
Yeah, who's hilarious, by the way. And then I think you've got Keegan Michael Key on. I don't know who. I'm sure you've gotten a ton more. How did you guys land such big names, even early on in the show?
I think it's so funny how people get actors on shows, because when I was young, growing up in Detroit, which is my first plug of the fact that I'm connected to Detroit at all.
Hell yeah.
But I even though my dad owned this comedy club, so I was pretty connected to show business compared to almost everybody else around me growing up. I still didn't really understand, especially how TV and movies work. And you just sort of look at it from the outside as like this big club where they're on one side of the wall and you're on the outside. And they all know each other and are all friendly. And it's like, the truth is, just because something's on TV, it doesn't mean any actor is going to want to do it. And so sometimes it's simple as it's like, let's just go auditioning and casting. And, I think it's easy for a series. Like, you can get a guy like Chris Parnell. I mean, Bryan Cranston was almost the dad. It was almost Jerry and Rick and Morty, because you're like, hey, here's a regular role that's going to be a regular paycheck, and it's easy for these guys to go in. But for these guest roles, a lot of times it was personal relationships. So Dan Guterman, who was one of my favorite people in the world and such a brilliant writer and really like my creative soulmate in a lot of ways, he came onto the show, came onto Community and then to Rick and Morty, but he was at Colbert for a long time. So he worked with Stephen Colbert, and he just basically like reached out to him and was like, hey, can you do a voice in the show? As the episode he wrote, and the Microverse episode. And Dan also is Canadian, so he knew Nathan Fielder from back in the day, so he reached out to him. And so it's shocking how many times that these are just like, oh, can you kind of do me a favor, And when you're working with talented people, those people usually work with other talented people. And so it's just about calling in those favors a lot.
Lastly, you wrote for Community, starring Joel McHale, Chevy Chase, Ken Jeong, Jack Black, just to name a few. We've always heard what a tremendous asshole Chevy Chase is. Do you have any opinion on that? I mean, is that I don't know. I thought he had a falling out with Community too, but
go ahead and tell us what an asshole is.
Please.
I'll say this. I never worked personally with Chevy Chase,
but you heard
he was gone by the time I got onto Community. Or actually, it was the season. Yeah, we sort of wrote one episode in season 5 that he was on as a hologram, but his character had been killed off screen, and so I don't know. I just have to like take everyone's word for it. But my one interaction with Chevy Chase was I was visiting the set of Community in like season 2, I think, and because I've been friends with Dan for years, and actually it was Justin and I both visiting the set together, hanging out, and they were shooting this Halloween episode, and I was on the set of the study room, and I was such a huge fan of the show. Even being friends with Dan, I was just a fan of the show, and so it was so exciting to me to be on the set and stuff. And I'm still a little bit like, oh my God, a Hollywood studio, Paramount. Yeah. And so Joel and Dan were introducing me to Chevy. How you doing? Nice to meet you. And then they had whatever issues they had with them already after 2 seasons. And they kind of started goofing on him by going like, hey, remember that old land shark bit you used to do? He's like, oh, yeah. And he starts doing the land shark bit, and it really was like they were essentially like kind of picking on him. Like they were like, I don't know if you remember the pilot of Freaks and Geeks, but Ben Foster plays a retarded kid, and when you introduce that character, there's like 2 bullies going like, hey, so are you going to be president one day? Yeah, I'm going to be president. Oh, yeah. And are you going to date a hot cheerleader? Yeah, I'm going to date a hot cheerleader. And that was kind of what they were doing to Chevy Chase, by getting him to do the land shark bit. And so he's doing the land shark bit, going like Telegram, and they're like kind of looking at each other side-eyed and smirking. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. To me, this is incredible. I'm watching Chevy Chase do the land shark bit.
Yeah, that's hilarious. He's being made fun of. How sad.
Yeah. So that's my defense of Chevy Chase. That was a perfectly pleasant, wonderful experience.
Hey, lastly, Justin, when he voices, he does Rick and Morty, right?
Yeah.
He's the voice of both. When he does Rick's voice, he's playing this drunk the whole time. Does he have to burp after every line he says, or can you guys insert those later?
I'm never sure. I think it's sometimes that they do those later, and so, like they have I always hear like what do they call it? Like there's some term when we have like an archive, a library of like, oh, it's a Beth scream, a Jerry scream, a Rick burp, the stuff that you can just use, you can recycle. But I know that Justin does like to get in there with his light beer and do like as many real-time takes as he can burping.
Yeah.
I don't know ultimately how they use, what they use in the final cut, know.
Well, Ryan, we've taken a lot of your time, man. It's Ryan Ridley, writer, producer, voice actor for Rick and Morty is really what we're talking about today.
Well, what's next for you? What's next for you?
Getting my own show.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would be shocked if you weren't trying to write your own thing.
Yeah, remember earlier in the conversation we said being the executive producer, getting more money and power is the goal?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's only one way to do that.
Being
the creator. Show.
Yeah, being the creators, even more money.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I always say it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. So
there you go.
We'll see.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for the time, man. It's Ryan Ridley. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Ridley. Or on Instagram, Ryan Ridley on Instagram, and funny dude. We absolutely adore your father, man. I've known him, like I said, for damn near 20 years. So next time you're in Detroit, man, pop on by and say hi to us.
Will do.
Thanks a lot, Ryan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, thanks, Ryan. And keep us updated if you get anything that you want us to promote.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Did you ever see this? This is actually they did this in July where he had him in the studio actually drinking and doing.
Oh, no kidding! Trying to do the voice of Rick.
This came out this year, so I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is why it takes 4 years to make an episode or something."
First thing I told him was don't have tequila, and then of course he had tequila, and liquor just adds a whole new aspect.
Tequila on the rocks.
I understand things got a little creative. How many shots is the right amount of shots for Drunk Rick? This is my fourth shot. I'm definitely probably going to be in the pocket after this.
In the pocket?
Wow, this little baby guy. I'm going to tell you
beer.
where to stick it. Because...
Got it.
See, that sounds too sober.
No, it doesn't. It sounds great.
I don't believe it. I don't believe you.
137.
God, voice acting would be the best.
Dude, it's the shit.
Just me?
My lips are chapped. Who's got chapstick? Here to explain is a little bobo boo.
Can you try to read this one on script?
Yeah, fuck you. Jesus Christ. What happens when we die? What happens when we all die? Do you guys worry about that shit at night? All right, forget it. Forget me. I'm drunk. Shit.
I'm gonna need another shot to do this.
Fucking.
Don't take it.
Don't
'cause
take
you're gonna
it.
be sick.
What are you talking about, man?
Wait till
Mike
like
knows.
halfway through.
Give me wait till
So
man.
you know, you get a little
He's just
extra
drunk
boost.
now.
Get the fuck out of here. Hopefully whoever we elect as the next
Whoever we
preso
elect.
won't
disallow my ability to get a gun and kill my fucking self.
Let's get some lines.
We've got 3 things I have to do. Number 1 thing of my 3-list thing is.
Oh my God!
Take a shot.
Here
Take
to
a shot.
explain this little baby princess. Whoa, 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 whoa!
I've been working on this show since season 1, and this is by far the least productive and messiest record day we've ever had. So, thanks a lot, Harmon.
Oh, that's funny as shit. Yeah, it's a different world. That would be so awesome, dude.
Oh.
Just like that, honestly, is the goal. That's the dream gig.
No, it's second to wearing apparel and being paid for it, for me.
No, see, I think it'd be more fun to be that. You know, like wearing a. You talking about a model?
No, I'm talking about just like I'm being paid as a tennis player to wear
Right,
Nike.
golf
you know?
guy.
That's
Oh,
just
yeah,
the
okay.
ultimate.
I thought
But
you
yeah,
meant, like, modeling.
voice acting is a close second.
If you got on a
It's
show
just your
that
voice.
hit,
Like your voice is so recognizable
Yes,
that
yes.
they need you. Chris Parnell. You know what I mean? You hear
Especially-
Chris Parnell's character, and it's like, oh, dude, I know that. Oh yeah, it's Chris Parnell.
Chris
Boom.
Parnell.
Exactly.
it'd be awesome too, like The Simpsons, where you're not doing someone an impression of someone. You're Homer. It's like
Badass.
if we did a show and it was like, yeah, look at it, poops, and all of a sudden that became a hit guy. That was the next Homer Simpson.
Look at that, poops. Was
You know
something.
what I mean? And it's like, oh man, look at that guy over there, and people are trying to do that
should
voice.
Make if we knew how to do, honestly, if I knew how to do animation,
look at it, poops.
I'm not kidding. That could be something. If you just did like 5-minute shorts or some shit of like an animated dog or something and doing his thought process.
Just some guy walking along, and then that's the hit, right? Like,
Yeah.
Look at that poops. It's on people's T-shirts like, "Don't have a cow, man."
Yeah.
Look at that poops.
Blow it up, E. Blow it up.
Let's do it. I'm gonna call Ryan back and be like, if at any point you need some voice work, like, look at it, poops.
It's gonna be like, right,
right,
sure.
I've got an idea for a show, man. It's called "Look at It, Poops."
Dude, some of the shit that's on Adult Swim at night, honestly, it could be as good as that.
Oh, I know.
I'm serious.
Yeah, so you're saying I got a chance?
Sometimes
Yes.
random is the best.
Dude, I fucking crack myself. I'll be driving down the road, I'll see just like a guy walking his dog, and I'm like, well, out for the stroll, I see. Keep your head on a swivel, friend.
And then you just start laughing.
And then I just start laughing to myself. I'm literally with windows rolled up, screaming at a poodle walking down the street. Look at it, poops. Hi, friend. But anyway, we've taken forever here, dude, going with him. We should probably get some email.
Sure.
We're probably backed up on reads.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Why don't you hit us with a Merc?
All right, I can do that. All right, let's see. Does your money work as hard as you do? I don't work that hard, so probably maybe it does. I don't know. You will spend upwards of 45 years working to support your lifestyle, provide for your family, and set aside money for retirement. Do you know if you'll be able to retire on your terms? I doubt it. How could you know if you don't have a plan? Let Mark Leibovitz at LPL Financial help to make sure your money is working as hard as you are. Call Mark today, 248-626-2000. E, did you want to add something?
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
Well put, E.
God, Mike, I'm just sitting here watching you do that read, and I got to tell you again, that embroidery is just, I can't get over it.
It's just fantastic. I mean, if you're looking for a gift to get someone for the holiday season, this thing is my favorite. I'm going to wear this every day.
DetroitCast.com.
I need 4 more of these every
Help
day of
the
the
show
week.
merchandise.
Yes.
Hey, got to tell you about the Hamlin Pub as well. They have 5 locations: Clarkston, Chesterfield, Rochester, and 2 in Shelby Township. Hamlin Pub offers a wide selection of craft beers. Most are brewed right here in Michigan. They have great happy hour specials Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m., and half-off appetizers on Monday. So check out all their specials at all 5 locations. Go to hamlinpubs.com for more info. And we do have some email, Mike.
Excellent. What do we got?
First off, Brad writes in. He actually forwarded his MyPillow invoice confirmation.
Oh, nice. Good.
Yeah, it's very nice. He says, guess what the parents are getting for Christmas? Yep. Ship it. Appears he got them a twin set of MyPillows. So
nice.
Thank you
Very
for
good.
doing that, Bradley. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
Are you looking
I'm looking for some drugs here. Not, I could care less what you guys have going on between you two.
Was he smart enough to use the TDC promo code?
Yes, he did.
We're sure.
And it gave a humgorous discount.
Nice. Did it?
Chop
Good.
that shit in half, man.
Nice. That's
Very
awesome.
nice.
They're great pillows, too. I wouldn't just say that. They really are.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Brad. Eric writes in concerning video games. Dear rolls along, giant dong, and where's a thong? I was listening to episode 952 and heard you guys talking about video games and how they may or may not turn users into serial killers and rapists. I'm a 20-year-old college student, so you can bet your ass I play my fair share of video games.
Hell yeah.
I've even heard of the Detroit game that you guys were talking about the other day and thought about getting it, but honestly, looked a bit repetitive and boring. I've sunk countless hours into Grand Theft Auto 5, killing bitches and stabbing cops.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
But the notion that me and or any of my friends would go out and actually do any of these is preposterous. I'd say this trend of mass shootings and other crimes is more likely from people who think that they're always right and that people who don't fall in line are literally Hitler, or maybe they're just crazy assholes who shouldn't have access to guns. Sincerely, listener Eric. I think that it desensitizes. Probably the right in the hands of the right person. It's gonna help push that way. But yeah, I don't think that every kid who plays these games is gonna turn into evil shooter.
Grand Theft Auto was game changing though, because that was like usually you get a game and it's like, okay, my first mission is this, and there are chapters and you got to complete this mission to get here, and it's like I need to go over to that part of town and go to the garage and fix my car so the cops can't find me, and it's like okay, I'm gonna do that, and then I start doing my mission. And it's like I'm just gonna veer off here and pick up a hooker really quick, and like I don't think I ever completed a single mission. It was all about robbing, killing hookers, getting blowjobs in my car, listening to the radio, and then just fucking terrorizing neighborhoods. That's all I wanted. It's like, oh, look at all those pedestrians on the sidewalk. Brrr, brrr, and then seeing my stars light up because the cops are all over me. Oh, it was just a blast.
Manny and Russell talked their grandma into buying them that for Christmas last year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they didn't indicate what it was, and so she just goes out aimlessly. Okay, they want Grand Theft Auto. Here you go.
Andreas.
I haven't seen either of them playing where they're getting blowjobs in a car. However, I have seen them stealing planes and helicopters and shit.
I thought I read there's a hidden part that you can put in that game and get like extreme BJs or something, or bang chicks. Like I don't know what that is.
It's gotta be a lot of fun on a video game.
Hell yeah! It's just funny to see that thing going on. But yeah, it's he's probably right. I don't think it's creating serial killers, but there's no doubt, man, that like there used to be gruesome scenes in movies when we were younger, and it was like
that would truly shock you.
That would shock you, and they weren't nearly what they are today. And now it's like, you see a guy's brains get splattered on the wall. It's like, whatever.
The scenes that they show in primetime commercials for CSI are basically things that would have shocked us when we were kids in a movie.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, every day. It's just a commercial.
Yep. It's weird.
Bagels writes in. Gentlemen, first off, I had a great sober time at the Hamlin Pub, and my dope-ass TDC poster is currently hanging in my bedroom. Now, my grievance. Oh, grievance. Okay, here we go. Get the clock started.
There you go.
I don't believe this has been grieved before on the show, so I'm excited about this. Start the clock. People that don't go on green lights. Hey, 33-year-old blonde mom in her way too big Suburban. Fucking get your face out of your fucking phone when you're on the road. I sat in the left turn lane when we may proceed only on green and didn't even make the light because the dumbass mom in front of me had her music too loud so she couldn't hear my horn and her dumb Botox-filled face in her gigantic iPhone. The world doesn't fucking revolve around you. When did it become common for people to inconvenience others? You're a waste of space. Get the fuck out of my way. That's all. Peace.
Wow, nice. He must have timed that out. Yeah, that was very good.
You know, I don't think it's been grieved before, although something like it has been by you in terms of left-hand turners. I think we've gone away from auto grievances because it's low-hanging fruit. It's too easy. It happens every day. We all get really frustrated by driving situations, but be that as it may, I think
since it's never been grieved officially,
I think it's pretty bona fide, Bagels.
Well, it's definitely bona fide. I would say exactly what you said. Couldn't have said it better. It's low-hanging fruit. It's something that I would have never brought to the show because it's obvious. Right. It is. But I'm more inclined to say it's bona fide today because 2 days ago I got stuck behind some fucking cunt at a light.
Yeah.
Just sitting there.
Similar 33-year-old Botox-filled face.
No, she was wearing a hijab, so I could hardly see her. But she had plates that were consulate plates, which I think are just like do whatever you want and get out of jail free cards.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
She's just sitting there, and I'm like, laying on the horn, and you know, usually don't you give someone a courtesy like, oh shit, sorry I was being an asshole. You get a little courtesy wave. Like, oh, sorry man, my bad.
My bad.
No, just 2 hands in, just looking miserable as shit in her fucking towel and her hijab.
How could you tell? You read that from her eyes?
Yeah, I read it from her eyes and her mouth. She just looked angry and miserable. It's like, here I am driving.
If you want to pin it on something, pin it on that.
I'm driving in America. Got a get out of jail free card on my license plate. I can sit here at a green light as long as I want.
Now I got you.
Yeah. So bona fide, I guess.
Yeah. Jim writes in, fit, fat, and fuck stick. Greetings from your resident corrections officer. Prison Food and Trinity Food Service came up on poems number 939 and 940, so we're reaching back a little bit. I thought I would weigh in. A Trinity worker, and this dude, as he said, he's a resident corrections officer, so he knows his shit.
Yeah.
Trinity worker was fired for over-familiarity with prisoners, and you were curious what that meant. What? This phrase covers a wide gambit of behavior, from touching, holding hands with prisoners, sending them photos, friending prisoners, or Snapchatting with them.
Holding hands and touching. What are you doing?
Jesus almost broke the desk.
Yeah, I know he did. He's getting all worked up over there.
Or having sex with prisoners. Believe it or not, sex between prisoners and Trinity workers happens quite frequently. I can't imagine what a prisoner has to offer, but I guess for some women, having a dick is enough. Trinity workers
Where are these women? Son of a bitch.
Dude, it's like the office romance, though. Your office includes all these people that are just behind bars. And so it's like, that's your office. So as often as people are fucking in the office,
It's
they're
a
probably
little
doing it in
different
jail,
than
too.
the regular office when you know these people are here for
Yeah,
something.
they literally have nothing to offer. They are a negative impact upon your life.
Well, it's so funny because we've done this story before where it's like these women are like, oh, my God, he just swept me up. It's like, yeah, he's got nothing else to do. He's got nothing to do all fucking day but focus on how to, like, make you think
Work
he's...
you.
Yeah, work you over.
Happens quite frequently. Trinity workers have minimal training on how to deal with prisoners, and they don't get paid very much. But what can you expect from the lowest bidder for a contract? It is a big problem for us correction officers because their lack of training and professionalism creates problems and security risks for everyone involved. Food quality, quantity, and substitutions are a major cause of unrest in our prison system. We were much better off when all of the food service workers were state employees. Jim.
God, what was I going to say, dude? Something about that reminded me of a story I was reading the other day about it was either, I can't remember if it was a judge or a lawyer or a cop on the stand or something, but they were talking to some guy that had killed a bunch of people and was going to jail. And one of them was like, yeah, and make sure you're, and he pulls out a thing of KY jelly, and he's like, make sure you got a lot of this. You're going to need it where you're going. Like, who was it that said that? And
It was a cop.
Yeah, the cop.
Yeah, it was a cop. It was during his victim statement because he was assaulted during the thing, and the guy was being sentenced.
That's right.
So he was up there telling him what's what, and yeah, he pulled out the KY jelly.
Yeah, you're going to need lots of this where you're going.
He actually got admonished by the judge. The judge was like,
did he?
You know,
Well, I would hope so. No offense.
What are you doing?
I know, but I looked at that and I was like, this is just so expected in society that it's like you can pull out a bottle of KY jelly and everybody knows what the fuck you're talking about, and everyone's kind of chuckling and laughing. It's like, no, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. He's being punished behind bars. He's in a 6x9. Good enough. We don't need to have him butt raped.
But if we all know that going in, that's the deal, then that's part of the deal, right? I mean, everybody knows it goes on in prison. And so don't break the law. Mike writes in, calling bullshit on E's statement about the sex robot real doll, his concern about cleanup. Remember, E was saying, like, dude, who's going to, I mean, what do? You got this receptacle or what?
Yeah.
Where's all the spoons
Real
going?
women wash their own vagines out. I don't want to wash hers out.
Mike says E comes on himself, on his bedroom wall, on his couch, on his friends' sofas, etc., without a care where it lands. Honestly, E, if you owned a real doll, would you take 10 minutes to clean it? Ever? Stop kidding yourself. You'd end up fucking your moldy jizz and get an infection.
That's my point, though.
The smell of your doll storage would be horrible, but the jizz would be contained and actually be your problem and not someone else's. Your lack of caring would finally affect you. I'm 100% for E getting a real doll.
That was my point. I'm not going to clean this, and I don't want to clean it, so why would I?
Did you think about infection?
So after one use, I'm going to be like, I don't want to use
Putting
this
your
again.
ripe little dick hole into that
I
thing.
pretty much was admitting that I would not clean it. And by
Just
that,
pull out. Can you not come on her face or her back? Really? You can't pull out of your real doll?
I'm not paying $2,000 for a
pull
sex doll to
Then
pull out.
What do you call those things that get condoms? Condoms. Why don't you just wear a
Prophylactic.
condom?
Why don't you wear a condom?
Jimmy, a scumbag, if you will. Why don't you just wear a scumbag, E, and when you bang your fake
You know, for
woman?
one, I just think they're weird as shit anyway, to be honest with you. I do not want a sex doll. And
So are you. You're a perfect match.
Okay, well, and I...
Wait, didn't you have a fleshlight? Didn't you try that? Was it?
No, it was given to me in this, what happened to be when I
tried the rubber fist.
No, I had a
Remember
work.
sent us the fist.
I had a work-related Christmas party, and I didn't realize that everyone, they all knew each other enough. I'd only known them a few weeks, and they all were like,
"Nice.
Oh, we give sex. You know, we give really funny things." I went out of my way and bought like a fucking dude. I went out of my way and bought like a mug and like a gift certificate to a restaurant.
You get a fleshlight.
I get a fleshlight, and I never used it.
Hey, we'll save the rest for tomorrow, Miguel.
All right, sounds good. Thank you to Ryan Ridley for popping on today. That was a lot of fun talking to him and getting some behind the scenes on Rick and Morty and more. Beck, we got one more show to do this week, so we'll do it tomorrow. We'll see you guys then.
You've been listening to the Detroit Cast with your hosts, Mike and Jay. From all of us at Radio for One Studios, thank you for listening. And as always, thank you, Detroit.